trauma is not an excuse for poor behavior. My name is Jared Mello, and this is Radical Self-Respect. I have an ebook and an audiobook that are available, and both by the same name. They help people with mindset issues, codependency, people-pleasing, becoming more assertive, and being able to change how we're doing now. Those are great things that the book could do for you. And also share my content with people that you think might benefit from learning a little bit about radical self-respect. Now, right into today's video, though, trauma is not an excuse for poor behavior. And there's a couple reasons why I came up with this video topic. Now, one of them was Meghan Markle's interview with Oprah, and another one was what some of the comments I've been getting on my channel lately, specifically from people that have borderline personality disorder. Now, full disclosure, there was a time in my life when I had all the traits of borderline personality disorder, but I've worked on them a lot. I've gone through the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous. I've taken a lot of supplements, and I've tried to do a lot of mindset work, and I don't have nearly as many of them anymore. I still have some probably, but I don't think I have all of them like I used to. And so I think it is possible to get better. I won't say cured, but it's possible to improve. Now, what I've been hearing a lot of borderline people say on my channel is things like, I can't control my disorder, or you're perpetuating stigma about borderline personality disorder, or you're lumping us in with narcissists. And to those people I say this, I do not think the truth is stigma. I have to be honest with my followers here, because if I were to say to other men, oh, getting with a borderline woman is all cookies and cream. There will be no splitting, there will be no abuse, there will be no gaslighting, there will be no devaluing. If I were to say those things, I would be lying and doing them a disservice. And if someone has the self-awareness to know, I can't control my disorder, then maybe those people really shouldn't be in a relationship to begin with. And unless that partner is a very willing victim, and that person knows, okay, my partner has borderline personality disorder, and I know she's going to hurt me, but it's just her disorder acting out. Okay, if someone wants to choose that for themselves, so be it. But I wouldn't recommend someone would. But what I would recommend someone doing is doing their best to act as if they can change, especially my borderline friends out there. And I get it. I get it. I've had all of those traits, and I know how unlikely it may seem that things can get better. But here's the thing. When we blame our trauma, when we blame our abuse, when we blame our pasts, we become powerless over our situations. We become more like victims. And on this channel, Radical Self-Respect, I don't want anyone to be a victim. I want to empower people to act as if they can do better. They can get better. And so, if we know our behaviors are going to hurt people, it's up to us. If we know better, we have to do better. We have to at least try. And if we're acting out in the present, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be held accountable for our actions. It doesn't mean that we are beyond criticism. It's like, no. We still need to be held accountable. We still need to be called out if we're acting poorly. And to say, oh, I was abused, or oh, I have trauma, it's like, no, like that's a deflection. It's a deflection to ease the blame. And to me, it's childish. When we are adults, we take accountability for our actions. We can only control our side of the street. That's it. And like I said, I act as if I can do better. And I always like to tell the story of Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was a psychologist, a Jewish psychologist during World War II, and he was imprisoned at Auschwitz. And he lost a lot of friends and family there. And he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And one of the things he mentions in the book is that the Nazis could take away all of his freedoms except for one: the freedom for him to choose how he would respond in any situation. And to the people who have borderline, to the people that are depressed, to the people that have suicidal idealizations, yes, we might not be able to control our thoughts. We might not be able to control our emotions. But if we learn to take a step back, we can choose how we will respond. And it takes some time to get to that point. It takes some emotional development and maturity, but I do think it's possible. And that's exactly what dialectical behavioral therapy is supposed to do for people that have borderline. It's supposed to help them to take a step back, to put things in a rational perspective. And at that point, we have a choice. Are we going to choose to believe that something like DBT can work? Are we going to choose to believe that we have the power to respond differently in the future and to take a step back? Or are we going to choose to believe we're just a victim of our past traumas and our abuse, and there's nothing we can do about it? I know which ones I want to aim for. And the same thing with radical self-respect. What am I doing with radical self-respect? Do I live up to it perfectly? Do I live up to that principle perfectly? No, I don't. But it's what I aim for. It's the guiding principle that I strive to live by. I fall short all the time, but it's something that I try to do. I aim for that. And I think it's a lot better than the alternative. And I mentioned Meghan Markle earlier in her Oprah interview, and she mentioned she was depressed. She mentioned she had suicidal idealizations. And a lot of people were upset with others who criticized her because they said, how would your friends and family feel if they came out with their depression or suicidal idealizations only to be criticized? And to me, they are two different things. I will never criticize someone for having depression. I won't criticize someone for having suicidal idealizations either. I understand them. I've had them. But that does not mean they shouldn't be held accountable for their actions. It does not mean they should get a free pass on bad behavior and abuse. But those are two separate things. And I think a lot of people conflate them into one. And some of the more unhealthier people out there, they're going to use that fact as cover. And I know a lot of sociopathic, psychopathic, narcissistic type people, they've used the fact they've had suicidal idealizations as cover to deflect the blame from them. And I don't think that's right. I think, okay, you have suicidal idealizations, you have depression. I understand. It's a terrible thing. And I still think that suicide doesn't end the pain. It only transfers it to somebody else. Now, I'll never blame someone who commits suicide. I understand. But I still think that part's true. But the fact that people are thinking we can't be critical or call out someone because they've had depression, because they have suicidal idealizations, that's just flat out wrong, in my opinion. I think we all need to be held accountable. We all need to be treated like adults, not like, oh, I'm just a victim of my past. I'm a victim of my past traumas. I'm a victim of abuse, and I can't do anything different in the future. I'm just stuck. And some people can have that mindset, and yeah, there can be a little truth in it, but that's not the mindset I want to live by. And I implore you out there, say maybe you've had this mindset. You think, I can't change. You think, it's my past trauma's fault. It's my abuse's fault. I ask you, how has that been going for you? How has been having that mindset going for you? Because if it hasn't been going too well for you, if nothing changes, nothing changes. So perhaps a change is in order. If we don't do different things, we're going to just get the same old results. And so if somebody wants different results, it means they're going to have to try something different. It means they're going to have to try something new. And that's what I've done, and it's been a very bumpy road. And am I perfect by any means? Absolutely not. Have I done things I've regretted? Absolutely. But I did them. I need to take ownership of them. I need to take accountability for them. Because when I do, that's when I have my power. My power is within my circle of influence. When I blame my past, or someone else, or past traumas or abuse, then I become powerless. Then I'm just deterministic to the core, and there's nothing I can do about it. But when I choose to believe and act as if I can do better, I'm not just a victim of my past. I'm not just a victim of abuse and trauma. Often, it's more likely to be true that I do better. I'm more likely to be able to do different things in the future. And again, this doesn't mean we become perfect. It doesn't mean that we have no longer any defects or shortcomings, or we never act out. No, it does not mean that. It means that we strive and aim for a good ideal. It means that we try to choose our response in any given situation, because that's where our power is. Or we choose to practice radical self-respect regardless of our feelings, because feelings are not fact. And we can't really control our thoughts and feelings, but we can control our actions. And so that's what I implore people to do out there. Try to keep it within our power to do better. Where's our circle of influence? And it's with our actions. And so I get it. I get it for the people that have had borderline. And I get it. I don't want to perpetuate stigma. But I'm for truth on this channel above all else. I'd be doing my fellow man disservice to not be honest about these things. But for the borderline people, whether you're a man or a woman out there, I told you what I do. And I don't live up to it perfectly, but I strive. I strive to choose how I will respond. I strive to practice radical self-respect regardless of my thoughts and feelings. It's just what I do, because that's where my power is. And one of the sayings, or one of the steps in NA is, when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. That's a practice of accountability right there too. That's when we take ownership. There's a lot of good spiritual principles in a program like NA or AA in the 12 steps, and they help us. They help us accept the things we cannot change and have the courage to change the things we can. They help us to let go and accept ourselves a little more. Ironically, when we accept ourselves a little bit more, we actually can be more likely to change. But I think a lot of it has to do with our attitude about it too, where if we have an attitude of humility and positivity, a lot of things can go a lot better. And I get it. When we're depressed, when we have suicidal idealizations, it is very difficult to be positive and to change our attitudes. And in fact, I'd probably want to punch someone in the face if they told me to be more positive when I was in a suicidal idealization rut. But it doesn't mean what they're saying is wrong. It's like, I get it. I don't want to hear it, but there's some truth in it. And so I implore people to try things different, to work on getting better. The holistic psychologist said a lot of people, their identity is all wrapped up in having some sort of disorder or trauma. And who would they be if they no longer had that disorder, or they no longer had that trauma to fall back on? They wouldn't know who they were. And so their identity is wrapped up in it. And it can take some courage to want to be able to break out of it, to try something new, to start making new mistakes and new blunders, because that's what life is. When we're learning, we're making mistakes. We're trying different things. And that's really the fear of trying something new. It's the fear of making mistakes, the fear of making mistakes in front of others. But let's try to make different mistakes. Let's try to make new mistakes. And that shows that we're growing. Like, we can't get comfortable without becoming uncomfortable first. Growth is an uncomfortable thing. But if we have a good accountability partner, if we have someone that's going to call us out in a loving way when we're falling short, it can be miraculous. And someone that can be honest with us, and we can be honest with them. Talk about how we're feeling. Talk about how we're doing. Those things are priceless. And that's another thing that things like AA and NA do. They give people that community, the ability to share honestly and openly. And it's my opinion, I bet you there's a lot of people with NPD, BPD, all sorts of personality disorders in AA and NA, but the spiritual program helps them. It doesn't mean they're cured. It doesn't mean they never act out again. on some defect or another, but they strive to do better. And they act as if they can do better. And the more they do that, the better it goes. So that's my video for today. Hopefully people can be empowered by this message as opposed to just being angry by it or annoyed by it or thinking that I'm perpetuating stigma more or just not understanding. But I want people to really get with the Viktor Frankl mindset that we can have all sorts of freedoms taken away, but no one can take away our freedom to choose how we will respond in any situation. And I implore people to practice radical self-respect. That's what I do. I don't do it perfectly, but it's the principle I aim for. So thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think about this video. Do you have anything to add? Do you agree or do you disagree? I'd love to hear it. So with that, thank you very much for watching and have a good one.